So welcome to our weekly workshop. I'm David Raymond from Virginia Tech. I'm the director of the Virginia Cyber Range and the US Cyber Range. And this week, we are continuing our series on an introduction to the command line interface. And we're continuing, again, our intro to the VI text editor. So we talked about, a few weeks ago, we talked about Nano. Then over the last 3 weeks, we've talked about VI. And this is it for VI. This is the last session on VI. So now you should, at the end of this session, take about 30 minutes and then you'll all be VI experts, which is great because if you know how to use VI, then you'll always be able to edit a text file on any Linux system you ever encounter. Well, almost any Linux system you ever encounter. VI is certainly the most widely deployed text editor in Linux, and it's obviously it runs from the terminal, and it's important to be able to edit files from the terminal, from the command line, for lots of reasons that we've already talked about. And so we're going to finish up this session on VI. And then I'll talk at the end, I'll talk about where we're going next after this discussion of text editors. So again, this course is, this lesson is from the course by Matthew Vogel. The course is the Introduction to Command Line Interface. You can find this in the courseware repository. Matt is a faculty member at Tidewater Community College in the Tidewater area of Virginia. That's vicinity of Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And if you just search for Introduction to Command Line Interface in the courseware repository, you'll find this. We're on module F. So we've done Nano, we've done VI part 1, a couple of workshops on VI part 1, because there's kind of a lot of stuff to tackle at the very beginning. Then last time we talked about maneuvering around in a file, right? So if you remember, we had some long files, and I talked about how we move around in the file. And then part 3 is about editing documents in VI. So when we started out in part 1, we talked about creating a file and inserting text into a file, right? You have to go into edit mode to insert text, but, or I'm sorry, you go into insert mode to insert text. Now we're talking about editing. So once you have a file that you need to modify, that's the sort of the topic for today's discussion. And so here we are using VI part 3. Lesson objective today is understanding the basics of editing a file in VI. So we've already got a file. We either created it ourselves or maybe it's a configuration file that we need to modify. So that's what we're going to talk about today, editing. What are the commands for editing files? And so we've talked about this already. Obviously, when you start VI, you're in VI mode. So if you start VI and give it a file name, you'll see the file come up in your terminal. And if you want to insert text, you can just hit the I command, and you'll see insert in the bottom left-hand corner. And you will you can start typing, right? So one way to edit a file is to move to the place, use the commands that we've talked about previously, right? You can use those home key commands, the HJKL, to move around, or you can use the arrow keys, or you can use some of the other commands to move multiple lines at a time, or to move to the end of the next word or the beginning of the previous word. So you can use those commands to move around, and then just go into insert mode and start typing, which will get you to part of the editing process, right? What that does not help us do is it does not help us delete stuff out of the file. So we need to talk about deleting stuff. And we also need to talk about moving things from one place to another, right? You might have a whole line that you want to move from the top of the file to the bottom of the file. And what you don't want to do is just delete it and then go down and type it again, right? That's kind of silly. So we'll talk about, we will talk about how to delete stuff and insert it in other places, or how to copy stuff and insert it in other places. And so that's all the topic of today's discussion. So the I command will put you into insert mode. The A command will also put you in insert mode. But if you use the capital I, you will move to the end of the current line and you start typing. And I'll show that here in a second. Capital A. So if I'm anywhere in a line and I want to go to the end of that line and start adding stuff to the end of the line, if I just hit capital A, That's going to move me all the way to the end of the line, and it's going to put me in insert mode, and I can start typing. Similarly, if I hit the capital I, it's going to move me all the way to the beginning of the line and allow me to start inserting stuff. So I don't have to use arrow keys or whatever to move to the beginning of the end of the line. I can just use capital A to append at the end of the line, or capital I to insert at the beginning of the line. And so I'll go to my terminal window here, and these are some files that I was manipulating in the last few lessons. And so let me go into VI, and I'm going to edit this, the Gettysburg Address here, right? So here I am. Remember, each one of these paragraphs is considered a line. So if I go to the end of this line, for example, I'm gonna be way over here, right? This whole thing is one line. There's no carriage return except for at the end of this paragraph. So if I wanted to append to the end of this paragraph or this line, I could arrow all the way over there, or I could hit $, and that would get me all the way to the end. Remember, if I wanted to go back to the beginning of the line, I hit a 0, and that's going to take me to the beginning. If I want to go to the end of the line and start appending at the end of the file, then I hit Shift A, and now you'll see that my cursor has moved to the end of the line, and I'm in insert mode. So now I can start adding more text. And then I can hit escape. Now I'm out of insert mode, and I can start moving around again, right? And if I want to, again, if I want to insert text at the very beginning of the line, so way back here, a couple of ways to do that. I could arrow my way all the way back there. That would take me a while. I could hit the 0 key to move to the very beginning of the line, and then hit I to start inserting, or I just hit capital I. So capital I, now I've moved to the beginning of the line, and I'm in insert mode, and now I can start typing. Okay, so that helps me. That just sort of streamlines things a little bit, right? I save myself some keystrokes by doing that. It doesn't give me any particularly new functionality, but I save myself some keystrokes. So that's appending text. Here's an important thing to be able to do. I want to be able to delete text, right? So the X button deletes a character at a time, and it deletes the character under which the cursor is located. And then, like other commands, I can delete more than one character at a time by putting a number. So I can enter a number, 3 in this example. I hit 3 and then X, and that's gonna delete 3 characters. If I hit 20, 20, and an X, is going to delete 20 characters. I can also press and hold the X key. And as long as I'm holding the X key, it's going to continue to delete stuff. It's just like if I hold down the backspace button on my Windows keyboard when I'm editing a file, that's going to that would do something similar. So so if I'm here again, I decide I don't want this stuff that I added. So if I hit the 0 key, I'm now at the very beginning of the line, and now I can hit X one at a time, or I can hold down the X. Or I can, if I want to delete some of that stuff that I added at the end of the line, I can hit the $sign to get to the end of the line. I can go back to this new sentence, and then let's say I wanted to delete 10 characters. I hit 10 and then X, and you see that it deleted a bunch of stuff. Or I can just hold down the X key again. And I deleted too much, so I appended a period there. Okay, so deleting things is, you got to be able to delete things, right? So we've just learned how to do a new thing. We can delete characters. You can also undo things, and maybe I should have talked about this earlier on, right? So we're in the last lesson on VI, and I haven't said anything about undoing things. You know, when you're first using VI, sometimes you do things that you didn't mean to do, and it's helpful to be able to undo those things. So, for example, if I wanted to, you know, if I was at the beginning of this line, and I you know, deleted, I hit 10 and then X, and I deleted 10 characters, and I decided that wasn't exactly what I was trying to do. I could hit the U button, and that's gonna undo what I just did. which is useful. And I can undo multiple things, right? So if I keep undoing, then now I'm undoing that stuff that I did before when I was removing this sentence at the end of the line, right? So just like in Microsoft Word, you can click undo multiple times and it's gonna undo multiple things. Same thing in VI. If I keep hitting the U button, then it's going to continue to undo previous commands. So that's how you undo things. And again, I should have talked about that earlier, because sometimes you don't realize that you weren't in insert mode and you start typing stuff, and then something weird happens to your text, and you're like, oh gosh, I thought I was inserting, and I hit an X that deleted lines, and then you just hit U and you undo that thing, and it makes life easier. Okay, I can also redo things, right? So if I undid too much, I can hit Control R and I can redo things. And again, that's the same as in like Microsoft Word, where you have the undo and the redo buttons. Redo will redo the last undos, and it behaves just the same. It's Control R to redo things. So you can also delete entire lines at a time, and that's kind of useful, right? So again, the X, if I wanted, one way I could delete an entire line is I could go to the beginning of the line, and I could hold down the X key, and eventually that whole line would disappear, right? But if the line is super long, that could take a long time. And so another way to delete entire lines is to hit the DD command, DD buttons, and it's going to delete the line, the current line that you're on. Right, so if I am here, and again, my cursor is up here, and if I want to get rid of this whole line, again, the line goes all the way, it's the entire paragraph, right? This line, the carriage return doesn't happen until here. So the line is all of this. It's just wrapped. So if I hit DD, that whole thing disappears. And if I decide that that's not what I was trying to do, I can hit the U button, it's going to put it back, right? So DD will delete an entire line. And just like other commands, if I hit a number first and then the DD, then it's going to delete multiple lines. So here's a thought experiment for you. If I were to hit 3DD, what would happen? 3DD, what would happen? All right, well, if I look at this, this is a line, right? I know that DD once would remove this line, and then, because there's a carriage return right here, right? And then the next DD would remove the blank line because there's a carriage return, right? These lines are separated by a carriage return, or there wouldn't be a blank line between them. And then if I were to hit DD again, then this entire paragraph would disappear, right? Because the next carriage return isn't until right here. All right, so let's try that. 3DD, and here, that's exactly what happened. And if I hit U, it all comes back. Right, and if I wanted to delete everything to the end of the file, like here, maybe I'm not exactly sure how many lines it is. Maybe the file goes on beyond the bottom of my screen here, and I just want to delete everything from here to the end of the file. An easy way to do that is to just pick a big number, right? I could say 100 DD, and it's everything after that line is going to get deleted. And if there's more than 100 lines, then I could just hit 100 DD again, and I could do that until everything's gone. Okay. So that's deleting lines. And you can use a capital D, which behaves a little bit differently in that a capital D will leave a blank line in place of the thing that you just deleted. Right. So if I were here and I hit Shift D, there's still, so if I do it, there's a blank here, there's this line, and there's a blank here, right? So that's 3 blank, line, blank. So if I'm on the line with words in it and I hit uppercase D, that line is, there's now going to be a line left there. Here's the blank that was there before. There's the blank that was there before. Now there's a blank for this line. So slightly different behavior, very similar, but slightly different behavior. You can also do some combinations of commands. And I'll talk about that, what that means. And I'm going to show you a list of some key combinations. So what these combination command combinations look like is you have an action command and then a movement command. So really that DD, it's described on this slide, right? The DD means, the first D means I'm going to delete stuff, and then the second D means delete the whole line, right? So if I were to use a W, so it says here, the example, the W command is a movement command that is used to move the cursor to the beginning of the next word, right? So we talked about that last time, moving around the screen. So if I were to do D and then a W, then that's going to delete from now to the beginning of the next word. So with that command combination, instead, the DD command deletes entire lines. The DW command is going to delete words. So again, here I'm at the beginning of the line, and if I hit DW, oops, what happened there? There we go. Now it's deleting DW. It's deleting a word at a time, right? So if I start at the beginning of the line, DW, 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 DW. See, it's deleting a word at a time. And if I hit multiple undos, then it's going to bring them back. So you can use the D command in combination with the movement commands that we talked about last time, and it just makes it more powerful, right? You can again save. It's all about saving keystrokes. And then you can, just like any other command, if I hit 5 and then DW, then it's going to delete 5 words. So 5 DW, and there I deleted 5 words. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's what you get, right? So this is a bunch of these different command combinations. So I can delete the beginning of the next word. I can delete to the beginning of the previous word. I can delete. Remember, dollar sign takes me to the end of the current line, or it takes me to the next carriage return is really a better way to say that. So D dollar sign is going to delete from wherever I'm in the line to the end of the line. D0 is going to delete from where I am to the beginning of the current line. DG is going to delete to the end of the file, and D3G is going to delete to the third line of the file, and etc. Right? So you can string these commands together and do some pretty interesting things. Okay, you also get, there's also these buffers, right? So VI has buffers. So when you use X or DD or capital D, when you delete that stuff, it goes into a buffer, and the YY command copies things into the buffer. And the way you get the stuff out of the buffer is you use the P command. So the P is going to put things. So remember earlier on I talked about we need to be able to move things from one place to another in a file. That's what the buffer does, right? So if I wanted to, for example, if I wanted to delete this line, maybe I want to delete this blank line and this line. So I'm going to delete blank line, and now we are engaged, et cetera, up through the carriage return. I decide, I'm Abraham Lincoln, I'm editing my Gettysburg Address, and I decide this doesn't sound quite right. I want to move this paragraph down here, and I want to have the spacing to be how I want it to be, right? So I want to delete the blank line and this paragraph, and I want to put it in after this paragraph, right? How would I do that? Well, I could hit 2DD. Okay, now I've gotten rid of that, those 2 lines, but they're in the buffer. Okay, so how do I get them out? Well, there's a lowercase p and an uppercase p, and these 2 things behave slightly differently. The lowercase p will place the text from the buffer after the current line where the cursor is located. The uppercase p will place the text from the buffer before the current line. And if I use a number, then I can dump out multiple copies of the buffer, right? So this is what I want to do, right? I want to place the text from the buffer after the current line. So if I go back here, if I go down to this next, I'm on this line that ends here. if I hit the P command, lowercase p, those two lines end up down here, right? Okay, now what if I want to move it back because I don't like it where it is now? I could do the same thing again, or of course I could undo this a couple of times, or I could hit 2DD, delete those two lines, and then I go to the very top and I hit P, and now it goes back where I wanted it. Right, so now I can move things around, and I can also copy things to the buffer using the YY command. Okay, so maybe I want, maybe what I really decide is I want this paragraph is so important that I want it to appear here and down here, right? So how do I do that? Well, I can yank it. So yanking kind of sounds like deleting, but yanking is actually making a copy. And I don't know why the guy who created VI called it, I guess he needed a word that started with Y, right? So it's yank. So if I said 2YY, now I just made a copy of these two lines. And then I go down to this line, and I remember I want to dump this stuff after this line. So now I do the lowercase p, and now I have two copies of that paragraph in two different places. So that's the yank. Yank is copy. Y is copy. Okay, and you could probably guess what's coming next. Okay, this describes what I just did. The yank, the Y, the yanking. Okay, and you can probably guess what comes next, right? You can use yank along with these combination commands. So really the first Y is yank the thing, and then the second Y is yank the entire line. But if I hit YW, it's going to copy the next word. If I hit YB, it's going to copy to the beginning of the previous word. If I hit $, it's going to copy the end of the current line, etc. Right? So these are the copy commands. And you can do all kinds of interesting things with that. You can also replace this individual character. So you can use the R command to replace a single character. This isn't super interesting, but it's a thing, right? So if I wanted to replace this N with a Z, then I just hit R and then whoops, I want to replace it with uppercase. Oh, now I'm in insert mode. So replace is a thing. Maybe that's not super useful. Maybe if you were gonna not choose to memorize something, maybe I would leave this out. And then there's some other funky things you can do with replace. And I don't use the replace commands very much because I just don't have that much use for them, and so I don't generally remember how to do it. So I'll just delete what I want to delete and then insert. I can also create a new line and go to insert mode, right? So if the capital I moves me to the beginning of the line in insert mode, the capital A moves me to the end of the line in insert mode. And if I use the lowercase o command, it's going to create a blank line below the current line, and it's going to put me in insert mode. And the uppercase O is going to open a line above the current line and put me into insert mode. And that's more useful. Like if I have, if these paragraphs didn't have lines between them. So now I want to insert a new line after this line. If I just go to, if I just hit uppercase O, I guess lowercase o takes me to the next line. Lowercase o creates a new line, puts me in insert mode, and now I can insert a line. Right, so lowercase o takes me to a blank line below the current line. Uppercase o takes me to a new line, creates a new, open a new line above the current line. I can join lines using the J command. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly because we're running out of time, but right, so if I have two lines and I want to combine them into one line, then I can use the J command, and that's going to join the commands together. And then I can search and replace, right? So this is the search and replace the functionality. So we talked about search last time. So again, this is about saving keystrokes, right? You can always do a search. You can hit the / key, start typing, and hit enter, and you're gonna go to whatever your search term was, and then you can start replacing that search term, or you can delete the word and start typing a new thing. This search command, you go into X command mode, right? So you hit the colon, then type an S, then a slash, then the old word that you want replaced, and then slash, then the new word. And it's going to replace all instances in the current line. And if you want to do this globally, then you hit a /G and it'll replace all instances of that particular word. So if I went here and I wanted to replace, let's say I wanted to replace all occurrences of the word are, and I want to change those to is, then I could say colon, I would do my S/R/is/G. So that's going to search and replace all occurrences of the word are. It's going to replace them with the word is, and it's going to do it globally, right? So there's one here, there's one here, there's lots of them. There's R here. And so if I were to hit enter, what should happen is all of those R's become is's. Why didn't that happen globally? Oh, I guess maybe it did it globally in the current line. What does my slide say? I thought that was going to be global. Oh, all instances in the current line. Okay, so yeah, that's what it is. So it doesn't do it for the whole file. It does it in the current line. To replace all occurrences in the file, then I do a search and replace with a %S. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so %S, old word, new world /global. That's gonna replace all occurrences. Okay, so if I were to go into X command mode and say %S/R/is/G, now every occurrence of the word R becomes an is. And then if I wanted to change all those back, what would I do? I would hit colon S/is/R/G. Of course, the joke here is that I'm not only going to change the ones that were R's before, but I'm going to change the ones that were R's before and the ones that were is's before. And so now my whole file is screwed up. The only way to fix it is to do some undos, right? So I can undo, get me back to where I wanted to be. All right, and that is, okay, so there's this has some command combinations you can use too. So the search and replace has some command combinations, and here are the command combinations. You can replace the current matching word. You can say, do not replace the current matching word, replace all matching words in the file, quit replacing, etc. So different combinations that you can do here. Okay, so that's it. And we're at 429. So this is it for the module on, this is it for module F, right? So module F was editing files, and that included Nano, VI part 1, VI part 2, VI part 3. I did this in 2 sessions. So this is 4 lessons, but it's 5 workshops. And so if you want to be an expert at editing files in the terminal, then those 5 workshops, those are all in our YouTube video, except for the one that I'm doing today. That'll be there soon. And so after this, we're going to move on to module G, which is processing text files, right? So we're going to learn some, we're not necessarily editing things. Now we're going to talk about processing text files. So how do I take a text file and process it, right? I might want to search for individual words in it. I might want to munge the file a little bit and feed it into another command that does something and feeds it into another command. Lots of interesting things I can do with file processing. So we'll talk about that in the next couple of workshops.